A lot of people know the name Clint Eastwood, and the person who goes by that name has been an icon in Hollywood for a while now. He had a successful career from the 1950s to the present day, beginning with his 93rd birthday in May 2023. He has been successful both in front of and behind the camera. Eastwood's work has been both controversial and well-liked, from his early days as an actor, when he got his big break, to his more recent success as an Oscar-winning film director. He definitely has a very amazing list of movies he's been in. The famous actor had to get through a lot in Hollywood, but he quickly made a name for himself that people would remember. Who is Clint Eastwood, and what did he leave behind? Join us as we learn about Clint Eastwood's life. At age 93, he finally says what we all thought he would say. What is Clint Eastwood? The legendary actor Clint Eastwood was born on May 31st, 1930 at St. Francis Memorial Hospital in San Francisco to Ruth and Clinton Eastwood's R. Ruth went by the last name of her second husband, John Belden Wood, when her son was famous. She married him after Clinton S.R. died. The hospital staff called Eastwood Samson because he weighed 11 pounds 6 ounces when he was born. He has a younger sister named John Bernhardt. He has blood from England, Ireland, Scotland, and the Netherlands. He comes from the line of William Bradford, a guest on the Mayflower. This makes him the 12th generation born in North America. In the 1930s, his family moved 3 times because his father changed jobs, although Eastwood has said in comments that they moved between 1940 and 1949. This is not true. The Eastwoods moved to Piedmont, California, and lived in a wealthy part of town. They had a swimming pool, joined a country club, and each parent had their own car. His father worked at Georgia Pacific for most of his working life as a manufacturing boss. After Clint and Jean got married, Ruth got a job as a secretary at IBM. Eastwood went to Piedmont Middle School, but he was held back because of bad grades. His papers showed that he also had to go to summer school. He went to Piedmont High School from January 1945 until at least January 1946, but he was kicked out for writing an obscene message to a school official on the scoreboard for the sports field and setting an effigy on fire on the school lawn, among other things. He moved on to Oakland Technical High School and was supposed to finish in the middle of the school year in January 1949, but it's not clear if he did. Biographer Patrick McGilligan says that records of high school grads are required by law to be kept secret. The author says that Eastwood's school principal had to check with his bosses before choosing to talk to the author. Whoever answered the phone at Malpaso told him not to talk to me, and he didn't, the author says. Even though the famous actor's life is full of ups and downs and roller coasters, many people still look up to him. But how did he really become so well known? Impressive military service, the famous and praised actor wasn't just on TV and movies, he was also in the military. During the Korean War in 1951, Eastwood was forced to join the Army. He taught people how to swim at Fort Ord, California. His plane, a Navy Ad-1Q torpedo bomber, had engine trouble and fell off the coast of California, close to Point Reyes and not far from San Francisco. His partner swam 2 miles across the cold water to get to land. In the 1979 movie Escape from Alcatraz, he plays Frank Morris, one of 3 men who escaped the prison on Alcatraz Island by swimming across the cold water of San Francisco Bay. This real-life event set the stage for his movie part. Eastwood got out of the Army with honors in 1953. Rough road to stardom, Clint Eastwood's path to fame was anything but easy. He had to deal with many problems while trying to make it in the entertainment business. He had a hard time getting jobs and recognition when he first started out as an actor. After getting out of the war, his first job was as a lifeguard on the beach, but goals hurt them in the end. To take over the big city, the young man went to college at the department in Los Angeles. At the same time, he worked part-time to make enough money to live on. He let out a flat in Beverly Hills and worked as a manager there during the day. At night, he worked at a gas station. Clint chose to start acting lessons after hearing good things from his Army friends. In the end, he remembered that claims that actresses were the most beautiful girls did him in Not only that, but Clint also went to a lot of interviews, put on his own plays, tried writing scripts, and contacted film companies over and over again in the hopes of getting signed. Soon after, Clint met Irvin Glassberg, a photographer from Universal Studios. He thought the young man would be interested in meeting with director Arthur Lubin at the gas station. The future star's good looks and fast growth helped him pass screen tests and sign a contract with the company, even though he had never been in an acting role before. However, the director did not think highly of the friend. The director said he was very inexperienced and didn't know what to do or how to turn. So taking acting classes was the main requirement for signing the deal. A small payment of $100 a week was also offered to Clint, though some accounts say it was only $75. Still, it was enough to move to a new apartment near the studio. There were other aspiring artists living in that house, which helped the young man meet new people. The first meeting with the other studio staff members didn't go well either. Clint had to pass a test to get it. He had to repeat Alan Squire's monologue from the 1936 movie Petrified Forest and be naked in front of the crowd in one scene. One studio worker remembered him and said he looked like a normal hillbilly skinny from the country with an Adam's apple sticking out and slow. The trouble was with how the young actor looked. He looked too good to play a supporting part, but not good enough to be a romantic lead in a female movie. The company often used boys like Clint to fill up empty spots on the screen. He realized he didn't look good when they let him watch the tape of the tryout. Eastwood had trouble with his work because he had a bad name in the company and didn't have much experience. He got small parts in low-budget movies and wasn't paid much for them. Away All Boats, Francis in the Navy, and Tarantula were some of them. They came out in 1955 and 1956, respectively. The players had almost no lines because their parts were so small. That's why Clint played an unnamed lab assistant in the movie Revenge of the Creature Who Magically Found a Lost Rat. In the movie Tarantula, he played a police officer who had to shoot down a huge spider. In 1956's thriller Never Say Goodbye, he was only on screen for 30 seconds. Even though his work has been rough, Eastwood was able to star in 8 movies in just 2 years. The actor's strengths, like a great sense of humor and the ability to really connect with women, were already clear. He would use these traits later in his work. But Clint hasn't been able to give those traits to his characters yet, because Eastwood spoke in a whistling whisper he saw a speech defect expert to fix it. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't fix the flaw. But over time, it will become a characteristic of the actress. Additionally, Clint learned how to act from Jack Cosselin and Jess Kimmel. The first victory came from the work. People started to notice the guy and start to give him lead roles in movies. Clint was popular in the movie business as a good guy in Westerns because he was good-looking and powerful. Kim Williams played one of them in the 1958 movie Ambush at Cimarron Pass. Adventure movies are about groups of soldiers and cowboys who work together to stay alive after Indians attack. Things didn't go well for Clint. He said in an interview in 1978, "It was so bad I just kept sinking lower and lower in my seat." This was because the movie was one of the worst Westerns ever. The next movie he worked on was called The First Traveling Sales Lady. He hoped it would do well at the box office, but it didn't. There wasn't much of a part for him in the 1958 movie Lafayette Escadrille. After a while, Clint remembered that they were making a lot of bad movies. I always had a young role as a lieutenant or lab helper. The actor started to lose hope for a better future because he didn't get many offers for lead roles. The time I spent working with the company was also short. After a year and a half, Universal bought out his deal. The heads of the movie company said Clint looked wrong. The directors didn't like his teeth or Adam's apple the most. Eastwood wasn't ready for that. He tried to help but failed. He kept going to tryouts, working out at the gym, and learning how to act. When Eastwood finally got the lead part he wanted, it was in a bad Western that made him quit. The young man did low-level jobs to make money. He cleaned up a furniture shop and dug holes for pools. He was saved by an accident. Along with seeing a friend at a friend's studio on the CBS TV network, Clint met one of the makers of the Raw White Show. He was looking for a good young man to play the part of Cowboy Rowdy Yates. Rowdy told the actors what their parts would be for the next few years. The pretty girl with strong morals who always does what's right. Clint said that he wasn't very interested in that kind of figure, but from the very first shows, the people in charge of the TV network found a new star. Clint gave the show a new cultural draw. He was tough, good-looking, strong, and good at shooting and fighting, so he immediately drew in young viewers. Years later, the actor fondly remembered that time Clint was in the show from the first episode to the last for 7 years. At the end of the first season, his $600 pay was worth twice as much. It had already reached 6 numbers by the end of the set. The show wasn't very famous, but it was very important to the actor's life. From there, Clint learned how to make movies and how the movie business works from the inside. Eastwood, who was still young, was asked to film one of the scenes, but it never happened. The actor was bound by his deal with CBS and could not work on any other projects. It wasn't until 1953 that the network let a little go after season 4 of the show started to slowly fall apart. The bosses chose to use Clint, their main star, somewhere else to get the word out about him. The actor was asked by the company to play himself on an episode of the hit sitcom Mr. Ed. It was okay with him as long as he didn't wear cowboy clothes. And it wasn't the ad that Eastwood was betting on. The story with the horse that talked was just as strange as the rest. He was happy to have passed, though, and took the money without saying a word. Clint was just ahead of the real glory. And he was again linked to the cowboy movies at the movies. The stories he wrote over the next few decades would create a unique picture of a Western and action movie hero who speaks few words. Sergio Leone, an Italian director, saw the actor in Rawhide and liked him. He asked Clint to join him on his new project, A Fistful of Dollars. It was based on Yojimbo by Akira Kurosawa and was the first movie in the famous dollar trilogy. Leone wanted a man with a lot of different qualities for the lead part and liked Eastwood. He was meant to work on the movie with Eli Wallach and Lee Van Cleef. Clint agreed to Leone's offer because he was sick of playing the good guy in Rawhide. He agreed, but only if filming took place in Italy and Spain, and he had to work on the show too. Many years later, director Sergio Leone said that the only reason he let Clint play the lead in his movies was because he could make 2 good facial expressions with a hat and without a hat. Leone was also impressed by how slowly Clint moved. The actor wore the same poncho while shooting and told everyone that they couldn't wash it during the whole production of the trilogy. It worked like a charm for him. A Fistful of Dollars, the first movie, came out in 1964. In Asia, the movie was accused of copying another work, but in Europe and the USA, it was a big hit. The film made $14 million, but only cost $200,000 to make. It started a new genre called spaghetti western. At the same time, Clint became well known. It's not a surprise that they made 2 more movies a few years later for a few dollars more in 1965, and The Good, the Bad, and The Ugly in 1966. The main character in all 3 movies was the same. He was quiet, wore a poncho, cowboy boots, a cigarillo in his mouth, and wasn't sure what was right or wrong. The main theme of the movie is thought to have one of the most familiar tunes in movie history. The actor's life changed because of this event. Because the movie looked so much like the book, Leone was later sued. And it's easy to see why the similarity in small details is striking the picture of a lone fighter, the way the action is montaged and structured, etc. So before a fight, there is a long, tense wait while the camera watches every move and look of the other person. Also, Kurosawa won the case in court and got $100,000 and 15% of the money made from the movie. It was worth it, though. In the early 1960s, Western movies were almost extinct, but Sergio Leone and Clint Eastwood changed the way people thought about them. They made up a typical Puritan hero in a hat and on a horse. This hero has clear good traits and is based on well-known stereotypes. During the 3 movies, different people give Eastwood's character different names. In the movie, he is called the man with no name because of this. Empire magazine named him the 43rd best movie figure of all time in 2008. He was also having a very bad time in his personal life. Many women have always been interested in Eastwood because he is tall and well-built. He didn't miss the chance to use it either. In the news, his name was always written with the word womanizer next to it. From a different point of view, Clint Eastwood has a bad image because he has been in many relationships over the course of his life, which has been the subject of much interest and scrutiny. He has had several major affairs and had children with different women during his love life. There were controversies surrounding the filmmaker. The famous actor married Maggie Jones in 1953 when he was only 23 years old. Reports say that Eastwood was not a reliable husband after he became famous and wealthy in Hollywood. In fact, Eastwood told a biographer that he was still seeing other women while he and his future wife were dating. There was another woman Eastwood was seeing before he married Maggie Johnson, his first wife. Eastwood's historian, Patrick McGilligan, says that the actor and director began dating a young woman he did not name after he moved to Seattle. They had a girl together, but they had to give her up for adoption. Not until 2018, at the premiere of Eastwood's movie, The Mule, did the world learn who their daughter was. Clyde and Helen Warren of Seattle took in Lori Murray when she was born on February 11th, 1954. And her son, Lowell Thomas Murray IV, says that her real grandma never told Eastwood she was pregnant and never talked to him again after the affair. When Lori looked into her real parents, she was shocked to learn that Eastwood was her father. You would be very wrong to think that the unknown young woman was the only affair Eastwood had while he was married to Johnson. During the second season of Rawhide in 1959, Eastwood began an affair with stuntwoman and actor Roxanne Tunis. Tunis was married at the time, but was separated from her husband. In 1964, they had a daughter named Kimber, but neither Eastwood nor the public knew about her until July 1989, when the National Enquirer published information about her. A lot of people were talking about this affair because Eastwood's co-workers were said to know about the kid. Barbara Eden, an actress who has been on Rawhide before, also said that Eastwood and Johnson were kind of in an open marriage, which brought up Eastwood's 1971 interview with reporter Tim Chadwick, in which he said that he and Johnson don't believe in being together. Following the end of his relationship with Tunis, Eastwood began living with actress Sandra Locke. While still married to Johnson and working on the outlaw Josie Wales in Page, Arizona, they were both married at the time and didn't really know each other. Someone even said that Eastwood told Johnson there was nothing left between them. Locke, on the other hand, was married to her best friend Gordon Anderson, who was gay, but it was just a quick marriage that never went through with it. Their lives were like two puzzle pieces that don't seem to fit together right. Locke was shocked when Eastwood told her that he needed her, even though he had never been able to be loyal to a woman. He went so far as to write a song about it, which he called "She Made Me Monogamous." It was very different from his other relationships, even his rumored 14-year relationship with Tunis. They had 2 abortions, and Locke had her tubes tied in the late 1970s, but they never had children. The scary part is that Eastwood was still secretly keeping up with several upkeep relationships while they were living together. As expected, their relationship slowly fell apart after Eastwood finally split Johnson. Locke, on the other hand, stayed married to Anderson. Locke says she would have been ready to leave Anderson if Eastwood had agreed to go to couples therapy with her, but he didn't. In 1989, they broke up badly, and Locke sued Eastwood for support after he allegedly changed the locks on their house and took all of her things. They made a deal, but it was clear she didn't have enough because she sued again for theft in 1995, and this time they talked out of court. To top it all off, the famous actor had an affair with flight attendant Jason Reeves while he was still living with Sandra Locke. They had 2 kids together, a son named Scott in 1986 and a girl named Catherine in 1988. Their affair wasn't known until 1990 when the Star tabloid wrote a story about it. Frances Fisher was another one. Eastwood met her for the first time on the set of Pink Cadillac in 1988. Before they went public, they had an on and off affair for 2 years that wasn't exclusive. Francesca, their daughter, was born in 1993 and lived with both of them. There were problems on Eastwood's end, and they broke up in 1995. It looks like his problems weren't just with women. There was also a lot of political trouble for Clint Eastwood when he directed the movie American Sniper. There were a lot of angry people who saw the movie because they thought it was meant to celebrate war. There was a lot of harsh criticism of the movie, which led to heated arguments. The director spent a lot of time defending his movie in interviews in response to the negative reviews, but it didn't make the reviewers change their minds at all. He made it clear that the movie had nothing to do with any political party or goal. Instead, he wanted to show what professional soldiers, Navy members, and other people who serve for specific reasons go through. Eastwood's main goal was to show what life is really like for people who have to make the hard decision to go to war. Bradley Cooper's performance as the main character in American Sniper, Chris Kyle, the sharpshooter, was one of the main things that people talked about. Kyle had extreme views. For example, he called the enemy savages and horribly evil. This made some people think that the movie supported Kyle's points of view. He didn't care about the criticism. He said that people just didn't understand the film's concept. He told them he didn't want war and didn't support bloodshed. He stressed how important it is to think things through carefully when it comes to war and conflict, stressing how important it is for countries to protect themselves. He did say, though, that he didn't like war and bloodshed. Eastwood clearly wanted to show how complicated and difficult military life is rather than support a certain political or ideological view, even though the movies caused a lot of debate and different interpretations. Has been criticized. Thousands of Eastwood fans online thought he had officially backed Donald Trump for president at the time. They were very critical of him. Even though he had said nice things about Trump in the past, he hadn't officially backed him. This caused misunderstanding and debate about his political views in public. After things got really bad in 2019, there was a meme going around that falsely said Eastwood backed Trump for president and said, "I am endorsing Mr. Trump for president," but Eastwood never said anything like that. In 2016, he said he liked Trump better than Hillary Clinton, but he didn't officially back any candidate. In 2020, Eastwood switched his support to Michael Bloomberg, a Democrat running for president. He said, "The best thing we could do is just get Mike Bloomberg in there." He also said that he agreed with some of Trump's acts, but didn't like some of his behavior, especially online. People pay close attention to Clint Eastwood because he gets involved in politics and is changing views. His words and feelings are often misunderstood and misrepresented in different situations. The author of Patrick McGilligan's book, Clint, The Life and Legend, did not paint a very positive picture of Clint Eastwood. McGilligan said that the famous actor and director was shown as someone who was obsessed with power and would do anything to keep it. Eastwood's reputation for being someone who would break contracts with workers if he thought they were upsetting his authority was a big part of this portrayal. Certain comments made by people who had worked with Eastwood supported the idea that he was a bossy and controlling person. Someone who used to work as a producer was described as saying that they would have to hold a meeting in the Los Angeles Coliseum with all the people Clint has messed up to. This sentence suggests that Eastwood's actions or choices had a lot of times made things worse for the people around him. It's important to note, though, that Eastwood strongly disagreed with this judgment. The man told CBS News that he didn't want to be in charge all the time when they asked him about it. Basically, he said that he didn't try to have complete control because he valued everyone's contribution to his projects. He used his work as a producer and director on the movie Million Baby and his addition to the score as examples of how he works with others. Success outside of Hollywood. While Eastwood was in the U.S. Army at nearby Fort Ord, he became interested in buying homes in the Carmel area. With the money he made as an actor, he bought 5 pieces of land from Charles Sawyer on December 24, 1967. The land was located along Highway 1 near Malpaso Creek and south of the Carmel Highlands. 8th and James Garner bought 340 acres of wooded land in Carmel Valley from the Howard Hatton Estate for $640,000 in May 1968. It was on the other side of Carmel Valley Road from the Rancho Canada Country Club and Golf Course. In November 1983, Eastwood and Garner gave the unfinished land to the Living Authority of the County of Monterey with the condition that some of it be used for senior living. His movie company is called Malpaso Productions. Eastwood later bought another piece of land in the Highlands, making a total of 650 acres. Monterey County paid $3.95 for Malpaso's land in 1995, $8 million, and put a permanent protection easement on the land. Eastwood bought the 134-acre Odello Ranch at the mouth of the Carmel River with the money from the sale that same year. He paid to lower the levees on the southern side of the Carmel River to protect his resort, Mission Ranch, and the area of Mission Fields, which is on the north side of the river and next to it. Both of these places were flooded in 1994. Eastwood and his ex-wife Maggie Johnson gave the Big Sur Land Trust 49 acres of land east of Highway 1 from Modelo Ranch, along with the water rights that went with it, in 1997. Eastwood finally gave away the last bit of Modelo East land on June 28, 2016. Eastwood bought 550 acres, which are now part of the Canada Woods development and are right next to the Modelo Ranch. In 2010, when Eastwood was 80 years old, he spent about $20 million to build himself a 15,949 square foot property in Carmel by the sea. His California real estate portfolio also includes the 1067, a Spanish-style house that is 6,136 square feet and is in Bel Air. A 5-acre ranch near Castle called Rising River Ranch, an apartment in Burbank, a 5,575 square foot desert modern home in La Quinta, and a big but simple house right next to his longtime Maine home in Bel Air. It is known that he has bought land in 2 other states. He has a house in Sun Valley, Idaho, that is 5,700 square feet and a 13-acre estate on the beach in Kihei, Hawaii. This second one was shown in an episode of Mrs. Eastwood Company in 2012. Clint Eastwood has lived a big life as an actor and businessman. He has lived in Studio City, Sherman Oaks, Tiburon, and Pebble Beach in the past. Even though things got rough at the start, the famous actor stuck with it and became successful on and off the big screen. Thanks for seeing. Right now, there is a link on your screen that will take you to another interesting video. We'll see you on the other side.